check on my little daughter. And while he was on his way to Jairus' house, there was a woman who shows up. And the woman is contrastly different than Jairus. We know that because, number one, the Bible doesn't even give us a name. It just says a woman. And when you look at this woman, you've got to look at there's some things about her that we need to compare to Jairus. Jairus has position, prominence, prestige, and political influence. But this woman is bleeding, broke, and bankrupt. And so what the text is showing us is that Jesus has no respect of person. He has come in and he analyzed Jairus' situation. His daughter is 12 years old and she's about to die. But this woman, unnamed, don't have no money. She spent all that she has. She's bleeding, she's broke, and she's bankrupt. But guess what? She's just right for a miracle. And what does that have to do with us, sir? I need to say to you today is that if you are in need of a miracle, you got to put yourself in the position that this woman is in. Because I believe that the prerequisite for getting a blessing with your name on it is sometimes being broke, bleeding, and bankrupt. Because God knows us better than we know ourselves. And he knows that sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you realize he's a rock at the bottom. Sometimes he's got to make sure all your money just go away before you realize that he's a man. He's got to wait till you get sick. Because see, we like talking about what grandmama used to say, but it's not until you get sick. Then you can say he's a doctor in a sick room. See, if you ain't never been broke, you can't call him bread or heaven. But it's when you die to your last day that you realize he'll step in right on time. We should have 4 or 5 witnesses here who knows what it feels like to not have good credit. Lord have mercy. Who knows what it feels like to every now and then have to put stuff on layaway. I wish I had somebody in here that knows that sometimes you got to do it out so your children can have a little more. But when you are about to give up, Jesus is right on time. Watch this text, watch this. I'm almost through. I wish I had hours to preach this. But watch what's happening. The text says in verse 25, that a certain woman which had an issue of blood for 12 long years. I don't want to be too graphic, but to understand what the text is trying to say, it's saying to us that for 12 years, this woman had a continuous blood flow. Let me just say it like that. Pastor Jones will have to explain it when I leave. But can you imagine what was going on in this woman's life? For 12 years, her life was interrupted because of this continuous